The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Oh, welcome on in, everybody. We're just laughing at the football noises that, those generic sound machines that give you, like, this is what a football player sounds like. I don't know. You and I have been to a lot of practices and games, yeah. Mitch, you more than I have, especially recently. I don't know. Have you ever heard any guys making that noise? Maybe on a compound fracture situation.
Haven't heard that sound. I've heard more.
Yeah, down at BYU, you're going to get some yells, man, like that. Welcome on in. It's another edition of First and 12. It's our rivalry week edition of First and 12 right here. Thanks for being with us on the program. I say rivalry week. Across the rest of the conference, you actually do have a couple other games that are in that rivalry vein. But I will say that obviously here locally for us here in the state of Utah, looking at this one and what it means for the folks here, what it means on the national scale, which is obviously the one that matters the most to people who are listening right now that are not in this state, or if they are, it means so much more when these teams are winning. And that's what you got this week with Utah and BYU both getting important wins. Utah dominating Arizona State, BYU beating up on Arizona only in overtime, over in the last 2 minutes of overtime. So that's what we got is an undefeated BYU team and a number 23 Utah facing off this week, and that's top of mind, of course. But we're kicking things off right at the top here with the game that was the game of the week here for us. Let's jump right in here.
The big time, Big 12, game of the week on First and 12.
BYU taking down Arizona 33-27.
BYU. Wait, what was the score?
33-27. And I'll admit, Alex, I was in Tucson, and when they got down 24-14 in the fourth quarter, I said, that is a wrap. BYU better pick themselves up off the mat and try to get ready for the rivalry game and not let one loss turn into two. But BYU found a way, despite its slow tempo in the fourth quarter. They still come out with a victory in double overtime. And Bear Bachmeier, it's unconventional, man, but 12 of 29, 172 yards passing. But on the ground, he carries it 22 times, and BYU finds a way to get it done.
Yeah, and I thought it was not, and you weren't the only one, too. My boys texted me and said, I'm out. And I said, that's fine.
I thought it was a wrap,
I'm just watching the Utah game now. And I was like, look, it is what it is, man. And I think, how many times have we seen BYU in the last couple seasons? Last 2 years. And this is a skill, I tell you this all the time, this is a skill that this team has learned, is not just being down, but being close. Like, those are two things. Those are feelings that you have to learn how to manage. Not just because you can also learn how to lose in those situations. It's just a thing that you can actually just get bad at. And in BYU's case, for some reason, they've just gotten good at surviving, at winning these games. The only time they took the lead in this game was in the second, past the first quarter, was in that second overtime. Starting out quick, 2 games in a row for BYU, like, that was a shock, right? People, I think, looked and they go, man, everybody's sick of these slow starts to the offense. Big-time plays, huge plays down the field, 14-0 like that. Parker Kingston with another massive chunk play to put a feather in his cap as well, and he's having a freaking year now. And then you're looking across the field, and Noah Fafita is a different cat this year, is a different dude. Like, that guy is as cool and as calm. Maybe you saw something different, but that guy was as steady as it came. He was as dialed in as it came. He was focused, and what was wild to me was it seemed like they were more prepared to go into that moment, and BYU, a little bit ragged around the edges, found some way to win the game. And you have to tip your cap to the freshman who got his 4th Freshman of the Week honors this year, 3rd week in a row. I was a little bit like, well, I don't know with those 2 interceptions, because the one thing that I will criticize about Bear Bachmeier, are we allowed to do that yet at this point in the season? Can we do that? The other turnovers from last week from 2 weeks ago against West Virginia did not hurt his team. Those 2 interceptions hurt his team down in Tucson, and they had to come back from those moments. And those are the things I think you can learn a lesson throwing a pick and go, man, I saw something different. Shoot. And then you go, it's okay, kid. We won by 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. That's fine. Those 2 interceptions hurt his team. For them to come back from that is wild. And it shows kind of what Kalani's team is made of a little bit. And it makes this week against Utah a little bit more juiced. You have a top 15 team, and I was like, AP voters, freaking do your job and put Utah in the top 25 so we can get a national matchup between Utah and BYU this week for rivalry week. And here we are down in Provo. Big noon kickoff's going to be there. Big deal. Awesome. And the Utah game, you're turning it away from that thing. They won by 32 points.
Yeah. BYU finding a way to escape, that long delay, the weather delay. They came out flat after that, hour and 15-minute weather delay. BYU just got it done. They found a way, and that's all you can ask for. BYU is not a glamorous team. When you watch them on film, I think many teams around the country would say
we got it.
They would cruise through BYU. But I think BYU, like to your point, they do have this ability where they find ways to get it done, to get 258 rushing yards on a much improved Arizona defense with that 3-3-5 scheme. Even Per Bachmeier in the post game bringing up, that Rocky Long scheme. I'm like, what?
You weren't even born.
You really got indoctrinated this week is how I interpreted that. But it was a tough scheme that threw a lot of looks at him, and they found a way to come out on top. And I will say, too, I think this win will – I don't want to say it'll be a signature win for BYU. It's not going to be one where you put a billboard up in the coaches' offices and things like that. But it's the type of win that I think at season's end you'll say, hey, that was a 7 or 8 win team. I think Arizona is much improved. I do agree. Noah Fafita looks really good this season with Seth Doege as offensive coordinator. Arizona will bounce back, I think.
Yes.
But I also just think that BYU, they have this just something in their DNA under Kalani in years 2 and 3 in the Big 12 where they just find ways to escape and get victories. 17-2 since last year's BYU, since the start of last season. That's pretty impressive. I don't care who you're facing. They just find a way to get it done.
So that was a big one. It was fun to watch how that one ended up. The close endings are the ones that we ask for, right? Those are the ones that we like to see. Those are the ones that we want to, as fans and as people covering it. You don't want a game that you are walking. Look, I always love that you guys who have to put stuff in print, or online, like that you have to have these 2 versions of how this day goes down. Like in your head.
I experienced that.
Like you basically just told me what your fake headline was about to be before things got. BYU went down to the desert, just couldn't find the magic again, and like that's I think where a lot of people's heads are. You brought up the timing situation. It's not a bad move when it works. And there were a lot of people looking at that and going, there's a lot of time ticking off the clock. And then suddenly they'd go, let's call timeout. And you go, well, I thought you were going to do that 41 seconds ago. Like, if you're going to do it, just do it. So there were questions about the clock management. And it's interesting because I think if you're Coach Kalani Sitake, you go, we knew what we were doing. That's why we won the game, right? And that's how they approach these things. We have our way of doing it. We have the way that we approach it. A-Rod is the same way, the offensive coordinator. We have our way that we approach things. We also have a way that we're trying to handle Bear Bachmeier. What are we going to do? Get in his ear and so go, 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 run, run, run. Spike it. Let's go. All these things. They know how to handle their guy, and I think they're creating a monster in a way, in a good way. If you're a BYU fan, they're creating a monster of a guy who's going to show up and is going to have ice in his dadgum veins. He already seems to have that.
He does, and even though he did get bailed out, Kyle Safarichuk, everyone's going to remember how to pronounce his name now after that fumble recovery in the fourth quarter. That was big for BYU, but just to come up clutch in a spot. We remember years ago with this program, guys like John Beck, where it was always, well, if game's on the line, he doesn't have it. He can't get it done. There's great quarterbacks even in the NFL where game's on the line, tough spot, OT, you can't get it done. You can't win. And Bear Bachmeier to be placed in this spot, game on the line, undefeated season on the line, and he rises to the occasion and gets some touchdown runs for BYU. Huge moment for Bear, huge moment for BYU as they get it done down in the desert, and now they turn their attention to, of course, the rival, the Utah Utes. We'll break down that game in greater detail coming up a little bit later in the show. But we got to take our first time out here on First and 12 on this Football Tuesday on KSL News Radio. Coming up next, we'll break down the First and 12 headlines around the conference. It's First and 12 here on KSL News Radio.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Bunch of content on KSLSports.com and also on the Cougar Tracks podcast, which airs every day here on KSL News Radio. You heard that earlier tonight at 6:30 p.m. You can check that out and on podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts and this show. Just search First and 12, and you can subscribe to the show. Right now, Alex, it's time for First and 12 headlines.
12 headlines.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
The dozen storylines that shape this week of Big 12 football. Headline 1.
We talk about all the other teams in this Big 12 conference, and there's a lot of them to bring up, and there's a lot of crazy storylines from this week, but you cannot ignore the big dog right now. Texas Tech continues to dominate. They roll past Kansas. It was there was an early part, I think, where it was 17-14 maybe, that Kansas had and then Texas Tech was like settled down, and an absolute blowout it ended up being down there in Lubbock, 42-17. And Texas Tech has a slew of games still coming up. Most of them are going to be at home against the toughest rest of their schedule. So I'm telling you, this team has it all set up for Joey McGuire and his guys to be able to roll. Big win against Kansas, who saw a little bit of light at the beginning, and then they squashed it.
And Cameron Dickey, their running back, runs for 263 yards. Remember, before the season, we were talking about the injuries at that spot. They got a running back now going forward. Headline 2, Tech climbs to number 7 in the AP Top 25 poll. Highest ranking for the Red Raiders since 2008, the days of Michael Crabtree.
Did they get to
times.
2 at that
They
point?
did.
Yeah.
They got to 2 that season.
I remember it being so weird because you were like, there was a lot that had to happen for Tech to be able to get to 2. This is different, though, because that Tech team, I think if you look back, you'll go, man, those guys scored 48 points a game. And then you look on the other side and they go, man, those guys gave up 43.5 points a game. And that's a different deal now with this Texas Tech team. Headline 3, Utah. Speaking of teams you got to start paying attention to across the Big 12, they have re-earned the respect, I think, that had been lost me with that home loss against Texas Tech. They get their first win in conference play at Rice-Eccles Stadium in the Big 12, which is wild, but they do it in insane fashion. They absolutely blast Arizona State 42-10. Devin Dampier goes for 3 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah.
And 120 on the ground as well. And man, he had a day. And I think if you look at his throwing stat line, you're like, what was it, 7 for 11 for like 27 yards or whatever the low number was. You would not love that. Kyle Whittingham doesn't care. He goes, give me all those rushing yards in my veins, man.
Headline 4, Sam Levitt, Arizona State quarterback, was a surprise injury cut. Last week we're on the show, we're talking about Utah, Arizona State, and I was talking about Sam Levitt, and he ends up not playing. He was dealing with an injury that was suffered at Baylor. I got to think Sun Devils have zero chance of repeating without Levitt going forward. I mean, they were bad without Jeff Sims.
Headline number 5, Coach Prime and the Buffs shut this host right up because I was like, there's no way, after surgery during the week, after not being able to figure it out, one of their tougher teams coming in, and they've got to try to figure out how to beat Iowa State, and Coach Prime and his guys absolutely do it. They win over a top 25 team for the first time since his first game at CU when they beat TCU 2 seasons ago. They got that season started off with a bang, but man, it was a wild game, and I'm going to be honest, it's just as big of a deal that Iowa State is falling as Colorado winning that game.
And that's headline 6, the Cyclones on a 2-game losing streak. That trip to Ireland, that early season success, seems like a distant memory now as the Cyclones are going through it right now after losses to Cincinnati
2 in a row.
And Colorado. They're not playing well. They're on a bye this week. Next up is a home game for them against BYU on October 25th. That could easily be a 3rd straight loss potentially for the Cyclones. Headline 7, Kansas State maybe could be this year's Kansas. The Wildcats knocked off title hopes for TCU potentially. They won 41-28 in Manhattan. Maybe Kansas State has turned the corner. This season could be saved a bit potentially.
Well, if Coach Kleiman, if he gets going, it's a tough thing. You think about all the talent that roster already had. We knew who they had on that roster, and then we all scratched our heads going, what's going on? So when they turn it around and put 41 up on TCU and then don't allow TCU to outgun them, which I think in every one of these games you might think, I've been waiting for Josh Hoover to take off, and it hasn't really happened for TCU yet this year. That's what our headline 8 is. I don't know what to think about Sonny Dykes' squad. I don't know where they're at. I don't know how good they're. They've already lost 2 conference games. Iowa State's already lost 2 conference games. Do you count 2 lost teams out already, Mitch?
That's a great question because this might be the year where it feels like with what we saw this past weekend around the league, maybe this is the year where 3 losses could do it. I still think that BYU-Utah game is really going to tell us a lot this weekend as to, whether a 2-loss team could get there or not. But, TCU has squandered opportunities on the road to go into Manhattan, a place that they've always struggled, but to just lay an egg and give up all those turnovers and easy points to K-State, it's a real problem. That's headline 9. The TCU gave up 2 touchdowns to Kansas State's defense. Horned Frogs can't get it done on the road. They're 0-2 away from home in league play. Headline 10, Cincinnati took down UCF 20-11 despite being outgained in yards, 413 to 306. But they check into the national rankings for the first time since 2022.
Well deserved. I think it was probably a week late, to be honest. That's a Cincinnati team that right now you're looking at and you're going, okay, put them in the conversation with Utah and BYU. Not necessarily. I don't think anybody's in the conversation with Texas Tech, but no. I think about who's at the top of the conference right now. There's always somebody in there who shouldn't be there, according to what our thoughts were at the beginning of the season. That's why we're not head coaches. Speaking of headline 11, Connor Wigman clearing concussion protocol. He goes for 306 yards. And no interceptions. And, Oklahoma State gets downed again. And Houston, don't get shocked now.
5-1.
They're 5-1. I mean, it is Oklahoma State. But, hey, bounce back after losing to Texas Tech. If your one loss is to Texas Tech, are we supposed to put them in the same conversation with those same guys I just mentioned, Mitch?
Houston is pretty good. And again, I said a couple weeks ago, 9-3. I backed off a little bit of that because they got blown out by Texas Tech, but that's just what Texas Tech does to teams. And maybe Houston put up a better fight than others have this season. So Houston's playing some good football. And for Connor Wegman to be healthy after that injury scare in the game against Texas Tech, I think that was huge for Houston. And headline 12, maybe the only highlight of the season for Oklahoma State. Did you see this, Alex? One dude in the stands at empty Boone Pickens Stadium. He had an entire section to himself. He was just shirtless, waving his T-shirt around, and then hundreds of other dudes slowly over the course of the game joined him, went shirtless, and started spinning their shirts around. Awesome scene.
It was
guys
great.
rocked, dude.
It ended up being good. Because at first, somebody on TV was like, well, this is the state of Oklahoma State football. And you're like, no, this poor guy is out there.
Guys being dudes.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it just what my mind put him as? Did he have a mullet? I assumed he did. Is that bad that I assumed he had a mullet out there?
He had some cheese fries at Eskimo Joe's, and then he cleaned up the mullet and went over to Boone Pickens. Yes.
There you go. So, at least, hey, you know what? Best storyline out of Oklahoma State from the past 3 weeks. So you'll always have that. All right, we've got much more to go. We're going to hit the second half of the first hour here. We'll get into our sound roundup on 1st and 12 when we get you around the corner here. You'll hear from some of the coaches across the league and get you ready for the rest of this week, on top of a little bit of a recap from the coaches from the past week. So stay here. More to go. It is 1st and 12 right here on KSL News Radio.
The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. 1st and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the 1st and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back. It is 1st and 12 right here on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, our producer is Gustavo Rodriguez, as usual, bringing you 1st and 12 every week. You can also download the podcast wherever podcasts are found. Go check it out. Go check it out for yourself. Boy, a massive week, of course, in the Big 12. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. And part of it is just watching across the rest of the conference, or the rest of the power conferences there, and everybody's peeking in on each other and going, who's going to blow it? And the Big 12 is just praying for a possibility to sneak in a second person. There's not a soul, Mitch, that, and before we get into our sound roundup, I was thinking about this. I was like, man, there's not a national pundit out there who has a predictor of the college football playoff that has more than just Texas Tech being in the college football playoff, despite the fact that you have multiple ACC teams, multiple, obviously, SEC and Big Ten teams. I just don't know where I guess everybody else is sitting back and wondering, because every week somebody in the top 25 is outed out of the top 25 from the Big 12, and somebody else enters the chat. And that was Utah this week. That was Arizona State this week. And that was Iowa State this week, right? And that was Cincinnati this week. So the flip-flopping is absolutely wild, but this conference is absolutely good. It's just they're beating each other. We knew this was going to happen. Let's jump in here and check in with some of the sound from across the conference here. It's our Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Check 1, 2.
The best bites, cheap shots, and excuses from Saturday's postgame news conferences.
So, Alex, out in West Texas, anything goes. And in Lubbock, well, not anything goes now, because the Big 12, earlier this summer, they banned Texas Tech fans from being able to throw their signature item, tortillas, after touchdowns. They can't do it anymore. They can do it in pregame, but they can't do it during the game. And if they do, it's going to result in a penalty. And that happened twice in the game between Texas Tech and Kansas on Saturday. And it led to Kansas coach Lance Leipold and Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire having a heated post-game exchange down the field. Texas Tech coach Joey McGuire was asked about that exchange in the post-game and ultimately spoke to the fans about this tortilla gate.
It's frustrating. I'm frustrated. I know he was frustrated. We've got a new rule in this league, and we know the rule, and we didn't follow it, and we got penalized tonight, to 15-yard penalties, and he was frustrated on that side. And we got to be better. We've got to do a better job. We got to find a way to do a better job as a whole, all of us, and we will. I mean, we've got 2 weeks to have a better plan and get the point across of what the rule is, because it's gonna catch up with us. I mean, the first one nearly did because the game was a little bit tighter than what you wanted, but it's going to catch up with us, and it's frustrating because it's kind of like whenever I talk to the guys, make it about the football, so if you get any kind of extracurricular penalties, like we had a 15-yarder late in the game, hey, you made it about you, and so if you're throwing tortillas more than once, now it becomes all about you. Like, what, like, really, are you? Is that a Red Raider? Or is that like, if you came to the game and you love this team and you're passionate about this team, but yet you're going to throw another tortilla and it's against the rules, like. So we've got to do a better job, and I've got to do a better job at expressing to the fans how important they are, because the atmosphere tonight was absolutely incredible, electric.
Alex, is that not peak college football where a head coach say, is that a Red Raider? Are you a true fan if you're throwing tortillas? I love the tortilla tradition. I hate that the Big 12 ADs voted to ban this thing and make it a penalty.
Who's the one who said no?
Kirby Hocutt, the Texas Tech AD.
It had to be. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, he's got to show up back to his student section and go, I fought for y'all. All right? I had told him I wanted.
Should we ask Mark Harlan and Santiago, like, hey, where'd you stand on this? Why'd you vote for the anti-tortilla?
Look, you can't throw the tortillas. And that's the thing, is that, like, BYU's been they've been a tortilla throwing crowd before.
Yeah, that's right.
That was during my time. Like, when I was a student down there, people were throwing tortillas. And we didn't know why. We were like, what are we doing? And I'm also looking around and going, hey, man, those are, gosh, we could take that home and make a quesadilla, man. That's where my head
Kansas
was at.
coach Lance Leipold, he had no interest in making any quesadillas.
Come on.
He was asked about how the tortillas situation was handled with the refs and the Big 12, and then he had a pretty revealing comment as well. This was Lance Leipold.
Very poorly. Our conference office and Scott Draper and them were very poor at handling it. They said was one of the officials almost got hit and tried to throw a flag, and it got picked up, so that was disappointing. We have a policy put in that wasn't followed through, so I was very disappointed on how that was. It's obviously they have a great crowd. They really get into it and do some things, but I know the officials were just as frustrated after the one penalty was picked up. That is where it sits. Say what it is. A pocket knife was thrown out and hit one of our staff members. So, it's ridiculous. It's supposed to be for safety and things like that, and it's a culture that's been accepted to a point, and it hasn't changed, and eventually somebody's going to be seriously hurt, unfortunately.
When did that happen during the game?
In the third quarter.
Listen, go back on that video. Find it.
Texas Tech's looking into it. The knife got handed over to Texas Tech PD.
Listen.
What do you make of that?
Someone's going to get hit with a tortilla in the eye. I don't know. There's
the
a
knife
lot.
stuff is. I
Look, I get that.
That's I'd be heated about
if
that.
That happens at
if
any
that
game.
did.
That happens at any game.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, the culture of it. It's like no culture in any stadium anywhere is like, throw whatever you want. The tortilla thing is, who freaking cares?
Yeah.
Like, we let Mississippi State down in Starkville give everyone a certain level of tinnitus at the end of every game. They get deaf. Like, throwing tortillas, whatever. I got hit by a tortilla. Come on. But the whole that's the sound of a loser right there, where you're like, we really hope that the conference would have addressed it. I'm like, how about you address your defense? You know what I mean? Like, anyway, whatever. The amount of time spent on Tortilla Gate, this is probably the second most that was talked about. This is whatever podcast is going on in Kansas right now. They're taking a dead freaking serious Tortilla Gate 2020. We would have won that game if the tortilla wouldn't hit me in the eye.
For Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes, it's field storming gate. He was so hyped to see the students storm the field after their big top 25 win over Iowa State. And Coach Prime, though, was surprised that doing an act like that comes with a penalty.
But I love to see it. I really do.
Any worry about the fine?
Is it a fine for rushing the field?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
50.
50 what?
50
For rushing the field? How's it 50,000 for rushing the field? Who made that a rule?
Your conference.
Huh?
Come on, man. That ain't right. I mean, these kids. Well, we have 50,000 right there. We can chip in. Let's chip in. That's how it was when I grew up. We going somewhere back before you get in the car with some gas. You got to chip in.
Maybe the best soundbite of the week. By the way, don't tell them about the fine in the SEC, right? That goes, what, $250?
Oh, yeah, that's
right. And then
right.
$500, I think. It goes
Gosh.
$250 once, and then it's like $500 in perpetuity, basically. They don't want to mess around with it at all. Look, you have the situations of like where, who was it? Was it the Virginia fans who immediately stomped over the Florida State guys who
that
were
was scary.
down on the ground in the end zone? That was wild. That's what you don't want. So, anyway, it's just one of those. It's just one of those things that. But I loved his reaction to it. It was funny. He should just ask Shiloh to spot him some cash, man.
And I'm glad that Coach Prime was supportive of field storming because, Coach Prime he wants to be a coach for the students and the fans, and I think that was a cool moment
He would have
at
been
Folsom Field.
He would have been tortilla guy too. If he was at Texas Tech, he would say,
Absolutely.
"Man, let him throw the tortillas, man." Absolutely.
Love those tortillas for life. Let's take a break. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper here on 1st and 12. Let's maybe get to a little bit of a midseason report. Our thoughts on who the best quarterback, the best coach in the Big 12 is. It's 1st and 12 here on KSL News Radio.
Today's just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back. It is 1st and 12 right here on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM at 1160 AM. Mitch Harper and myself, Alex Kirry. You can hear us in our respective places during the week. I'm over on the KSL Sports Zone, 97.5 and 1280 The Zone. And then, of course, on KSLSports.com. You can stream that all day. You can also read Mitch's byline at KSLSports.com, where he is a BYU insider there on that side of things. And then, of course, hosts during the week Cougar Tracks that precedes this program, and then also Cougar Sports Saturday on Saturday. This will be a big one this Saturday, Mitch.
Extended pregame, 4 hours, noon to 4 at the Swig on Canyon Road, right by the stadium.
And then you know what? We take over from 4 to 6. We do pregame over at the UCCU there. So that and Big Noon Kickoff, I think we've got you covered all day long. Are they going to ruin the parking situation again this week like they did last year?
That's a good question.
I mean, that took over the entire dadgum parking lot for a lot of hours. We might be there long enough. We might be there early enough that it won't matter. But shoot, man, like Cosmo landing with a parachute. I'm assuming they're going to step up. What percentage of Big Noon Kickoff deciding to come to Provo was just based off of Cosmo?
Oh, it has to be huge.
30 to 40%.
Because he's social media gold.
They just churn out video after video after video of him doing stunts in the parking lot at LaVell Edwards Stadium.
We're about to dive into a midseason report. If we did a midseason report on mascots, there is no mascot that draws more attention than Cosmo in Tucson.
What about that married couple down in Tucson, the cat and his wife?
Wilbur and Wilma, they got some run, too. They got a little bit of juice, but no BYU fan was going up to them.
My daughter's like, are they married? I was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's.
I think they're separated from previous relationships and living together. I think common law, yes.
It's complicated, but they're figuring out.
Oh my God,
they're working things through. But
they are definitely. You think Big Noon Kickoff is like, oh, we'd love to come there. Hey, by the way, what's Cosmo doing? Can you get all the Cosmos available? Dress them all up.
He just spins his tail.
Like, can we set something on fire in the parking lot? That's what Big Noon Kickoff is.
Please, asking. Cosmo. Do not go on network television and do the David Copperfield thing again. Or David Blaine.
No,
do not do that thing again.
Don't do the Houdini stuff where you almost drown yourself.
I was going through the Rolodex of magicians there.
I was like, geez. You and I were like, I think we've watched like literally the jumping of the shark by
I was hearing
Cosmo.
that sound. For millennials, you remember this? The Sonic the Hedgehog when you're underwater. Dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
I thought that was going to happen with Cosmo.
He ran out of
he was
air.
going to die.
Yeah.
I said, Alex, we are about to witness Cosmo dying his last breath.
Yeah.
Save that cat, please.
If you don't know what the stunt was, it was Cosmo under a water tank trying to do a Rubik's Cube during a timeout.
And then he did this hand signal where it's like, is he
help
okay?
Me. He's like, help me. And you're like, the cat can't breathe. And then they are going like this. TV's all, well, we got to come back from a break. And they're like, no, finish the Rubik's Cube. It was bad. The whole thing was bad. Anyway, he didn't die.
Here's something I want to ask you if this is bad or not.
Yes.
The Big 12 official social media account clapping back at former members. Did you see this?
Oh, listen. Mitch, you know our program is about drama. You know this is like the rumor mills and the drama and the little petty crap. We live for it, dude. So I don't even know what you're about to read, but the answer is yes. You give me all of it.
Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables in a weekly press conference this week. This quote from a Oklahoma reporter on X. He writes, just a tweet that says, Brent Venables on playing in the SEC and it being a one-possession league. Quote, this isn't the old Big 12 days where Oklahoma destroys everybody every single week except one game of the year. The official Big 12 Conference X account, formerly Twitter, wrote on social media, this is the official account, remember. Coach Venables lost 8 conference games in his 2 seasons in the Big 12.
Wow.
Done. Send. Almost 1 million views on X in an hour.
Brent Venables, you deserve. I feel like Brett Yormark. He sent that tweet himself. Give me
had to.
Jeannie, give me phone number 3. Give me phone number 3. I'm going to tweet this out because you know he has 3 or 4 phones. He has to, right? Jeannie, give me phone number 3. I'm tweeting this out myself. And he tweets it out, and then he goes, screw you, Brent Venables, and then moves on. And I'll tell you, that is a garbage move because you know what happens? He said that knowing full well what the reality probably was. Yeah. Like he was not successful. He's on the edge. He was at the end of firing all the coordinators that he could fire. His job was on the line. Bringing John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle in was the only thing that saved his job. And by the way, they look like garbage this weekend against Texas in the Red Rivalry game, the Red River Rivalry game. So I'm telling you, this guy, he knows what the truth is. He says that to an audience of people who don't know the truth. And it's an easy way to fake that you're successful. And it is BS, man.
Brent Venables almost lost to BYU when BYU was really bad in this league.
That was the 4 loss in a row Jake Retzlaff that he got.
Jake throws a pick and it goes for 99 yards the other way.
Yes.
If that doesn't happen, BYU beats Venables. Don't tell me that you're just destroying everybody. You couldn't destroy BYU when they were down and out.
Look, I get it. If he's referring to, man, back when Oklahoma was good, when I wasn't the coach, when Bob Stoops was there, like that.
And he was there during that time as a DC,
but don't try to take credit for that. Like I will accept that Oklahoma has been an absolute dominant force for a good 10-plus years.
Them
or
in Ohio
more.
State, they've always been good.
Bob Stoops, not Brent Venables. Not Brent Venables. When you were the head coach, you were a 4-loss guarantee every year in those 2 years that you were there, and everybody laughed at you. And by the way, everybody in Oklahoma was calling for your job. And they kind of are now, because if you lose that game against Texas, a bad Texas team, they did. That's what happens.
And the Big 12 prides itself on being the league of one-possession games.
Yeah,
this league is built on one-possession football games.
Yeah, and the teams are listen. There is no Ohio State in this conference, but Oklahoma is also not Ohio State in the SEC either. Like, they're not Alabama. They're not Georgia. They haven't gotten there yet. They're not even LSU. I mean, to be honest, they haven't even earned that yet. And frankly, Texas right now is that team to beat, until further notice, because right now, even with the couple losses that they have, they at least beat Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has not gotten to that national stage like Coach Sark has the last couple of years with Texas. But
Mid-season report, Alex.
I digress.
We're at the midway point of the season. Every team's played at least 6 games in the regular season. I thought it was a good way to kind of check in real quick before we get to a break on some maybe awards at the midway point in the Big 12 Conference. Who do you think is the best coach in this league at the midway point?
I think it's pretty easy to say that Joey McGuire from Texas Tech is the guy, because they're doing it. They're doing the thing that every year everybody's been waiting for them to do the last 2 years probably, and now they're doing it. But quick honorable mention to Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati.
That's a good pull.
It's a hard thing to do what he's doing right now. And of all the teams that we have ignored probably over the past couple of years that deserve that type of respect, right now Cincinnati's kind of earned it. They're in the top 25 against all odds. Everybody knew that Joey McGuire and Texas Tech were going to be pretty darn good. Nobody saw Satterfield doing what he's doing right now with the Bearcats.
Good pull. I'd go McGuire as well. Best quarterback, I'd say Sawyer Robertson. It's tough to say because
the losses sometimes are not
you
going
look at the
there.
stats. He's number 1 in the country in passing yards.
And then you start to wonder where the real issue is. Could that defense have gotten him to the point now where he would actually be in the Heisman Trophy candidate conversation? And the answer is probably. And guess who the DC of that whole team is? Guess who calls the defensive plays? Dave Aranda, the head coach. I mean, they might have a defensive coordinator and name somewhere in there. He calls the dang plays, and that's going to be a real problem at the end of the year. You have a star quarterback, and no one sees him because you're losing games.
You bring up defense. Who's the best defense in the Big 12? I think there's some great candidates here. You got Tech, you got Utah, BYU. They're the 3 leaders in total defense, scoring defense. Who do you think's the best in the group?
I have to go with Texas Tech right now. They're embarrassing teams that are normally used to scoring a ton of points. When you let Utah only score 10 at their place, that is, that by itself, that performance by itself, you almost go, okay, but they've been doing it week in and week out. I don't know where they are on a scoring defense side of things. From a national perspective, they might be a little bit high.
12.2 allowed per game.
That might be, what is that? That must be top 3. So I'm going to have to go with Texas Tech because that's the big missing piece that they've had over the years is not having that great defense, and they have it this year.
I'll go Tech too, but I was going to say BYU until the recent injuries with Jack Kelly, even an underrated guy like Anisi Purcell. And Kelly, we'll see if he ends up going this week. But injuries like that have kind of stacked up on BYU. But, I had questions coming into the year about Utah. I don't know why I did. Utah only allowing 13.8 points per game. The names change, the faces change, and it still shows up for the Utes. But I'll go with Tech as well. And then best team, I think it's pretty easy, Texas Tech.
Texas Tech for sure. Look, BYU's undefeated. Houston's 5-1.
I feel like there's a big gap between Tech and BYU, though.
I think there's a big gap between Tech and everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's going to be who is battling for that second spot in Arlington. That's at least what it looks like. I mean, we are shocked every week by this conference. I texted you last week during the whole middle thing. I go, I don't even know what to do with this conference. Every week we get ourselves into a spot where we go, how do I explain this?
Well, let's roll it out. Next segment here. Let's take a break and let's roll out our Big 12
disaster.
Power rankings. Hard week to rank. Let's roll it out next here on 1st and 12.